If you're anything like me, you probably wish there were 30 hours in a day. That just isn't enough time to do all the things I want to do and experience. Time also seems to speed up as you age. The productivity gurus out there tell us the solution lies in more efficiency. Wake up at 4 AM, plan every second of your day, join a mastermind, eat cucumbers for dinner. Alright, maybe they don't say eat cucumbers, but it would save a lot of time cooking. There's this expectation imprinted on us of what it means to live a life well spent. You can do and become anything becomes you have to do and become all those things. I'm definitely guilty of this. I'm not where I want to be at in life. I frequently feel like I'm not doing enough and wonder what other steps I can take to secure a good future and where to find the time. But then I read the book 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, and he really puts this whole notion of controlling time on its head. The subtitle is Time Management for Mortals, but it's really more of a philosophical book than your typical self-help book. The author points out that the average person lives to around 80 years or 4,000 weeks, and he argues that it's impossible to do everything we want to in this limited time. Only when we come to terms with our finitude can we truly start living. Hi, my name is Peter, and on this channel we talk about living with more intention. And in this video, I want to share my key takeaways from 4,000 Weeks. Author Richard Bach said, "You teach best what you most need to learn." So this video is my attempt at sharing how I intend to apply the lessons from this book in my own life, and hopefully inspire you to rethink your own relationship with time, and ultimately what it means to live a life well spent. So stick around until the end, because I will give you some actionable tips on how you can be more intentional with your time. You will never have enough time. The first cold hard truth the author hit me with is, you will never have enough time. We chase a future that will never arrive. If only I had more money, more time, better health, I will be able to be or do the thing, or feel calm. However, that moment will never come. The reason is what Bergman calls the efficiency trap. The demands on your time will increase to offset any benefits. Far from getting things done, you'll be creating new things to do. Just think of this. Compared to how people lived hundreds of years ago, we should have so much more free time. Just think of how those people had to do laundry by hand, long walks to get groceries, and heat up brick fireplaces before they could cook a meal. These days we have microwaves, dishwashers, and jet engines. Each of those things freed up so much of our time, made us so much more efficient. With all that progress, we should feel like time is abundant, right? Yet this is nobody's actual experience. Many of us feel busier than ever. That's because life accelerates and we just adapt. Another way of looking at it is that time is like an unstoppable conveyor belt, bringing us new tasks as soon and fast as we can dispatch the old ones. If you become more productive, more efficient, the belt just seems to speed up. I never thought of it that way before I read 4,000 Weeks, but I know this to be true in my own life. No matter how efficiently I work, I never have enough time to do everything I want to. You will never be able to master the time you have. It's okay, we don't have enough time for everything. So how do we get the most out of the time we do have? This is basically the topic of every piece of productivity advice out there. However, according to Oliver Burkeman, it's impossible to master the time we have. A skill you can master is hitting the subscribe button. It's red, clicking it is easy, it'll only take a second. I'll wait, I've got time. So yeah, one thing that makes us human is our ability to make plans. We often make sacrifices in the moment in order to secure a better future. Saving money to buy a house, dieting to lose weight, hustling to build a successful business. And so we put this enormous pressure on ourselves to be super efficient with our time, so we can use that time to build toward a future where we finally achieve our goals, live the life we deep down feel we are entitled to, and actually have the time to enjoy it. This gives us the false idea that we are in control. But time is like an obstreperous toddler. The more you struggle to control it, the further it slips from your control. In his book, Oliver Burkeman writes, "We treat our plans as though they are a lasso, thrown from the present around the future, in order to bring it under our command. But all a plan is a present moment statement of intent." I thought this was a very powerful image. If you want to go even deeper, philosopher Martin Heidegger suggests we don't have time at all. Instead, we are time. We'll never get the upper hand in our relationship with the moments of our lives because we are nothing but those moments. All we have is the present moment, and we have no guarantee that we even get to experience the next one. We are not entitled to living 4,000 weeks. To me, this doesn't mean that there's no point to wanting to be more productive, build habits and all that stuff. But these takeaways, they set the stage of what we're working with. Because we will never have enough time, and we won't be able to fully master the time we have, it becomes more important how we spend the time we do have. It's an incentive to live with more intention. If you can face your finitude, you can cultivate a fulfilling life. So how do we live with more intention? It starts with accepting our finitude and seeing life as a gift. In an interview, Woody Allen once said, "Someone once asked me if my dream was to live on in the hearts of people. And I said I would prefer to live on in my apartment." I can definitely relate to that. Who cares about legacy when you're gone? Being healthy and alive is much nicer. We don't like to think about our death. We've got all these things we want to do and achieve, and life appears short because we're in a hurry to go do or get those things. And then mortality shows up, for many before they've even lived 4,000 weeks, to steal away the life that was rightfully yours. Oliver Burkeman argues that there's something very entitled about that attitude. Why should we assume that an infinite supply of time is the default, and mortality the outrageous violation? Why treat 4,000 weeks as a very small number? We're alive right now, and that's a gift. There's no cosmic law guaranteeing we'll even be alive tomorrow. But does that mean we've been cheated out of an unlimited supply of time? Maybe it's the opposite. It's a miracle to have been granted any time on Earth at all. Contemplating death sounds pessimistic. It's not a fun thing to do. But what I take away from it is that by understanding my time on Earth is a gift with an expiry date that's unknown to me, I get clarity on how I want to spend that time, how to live a fulfilling life. This is where I see an overlap with minimalism. To me, minimalism has never been just about decluttering my stuff and reorganizing the house. It's much broader. It's a mindset. It's about removing excess and distractions to create space for what's truly important. And there's a mental component to that. This idea of facing my mortality is a way to become more present. Pondering what it means to live for just 4,000 weeks, it's like a veil is being lifted and I can see more clearly now. Time is my most valuable, non-renewable resource. So how do I want to use that time? When you pay attention to things you don't value, you're paying with your life. When we talk about how to best use our time, it's really about what we give attention to. What you pay attention to will define, for you, what reality is. In that sense, life is attention. Your experience of life is the combined moments of what you've given attention to. So what this means is that if you're giving attention to things you don't value, you're paying for it with your life. Just let that sink in for a moment. However, you're not the only one interested in what you give attention to. Technology companies like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok have a vested interest in hijacking your attention once you open their apps. They use techniques like infinite scroll to keep you scrolling. What you see on your feed is not random. AI algorithms fine-tune what you might be interested in to increase the chances that you will engage with it and stay on the platform. The Netflix documentary The Social Dilemma was a real eye-opener for me, showing how manipulative and addictive these apps are, preying on deep-seated vulnerabilities in our brains, like our drive for social approval. When you're on a social media app, you're fighting an unfair battle many aren't even aware of, against thousands of algorithm engineers whose job it is to keep you on the platform for as long as possible. Why? Because that's how they make their profits, by seizing your attention and then selling it to advertisers. As former Facebook investor turned detractor Roger McNamee said, "We're not just the product being sold, but we're the fuel. Impersonal logs thrown on Silicon Valley's fire until we're all used up." Now, I'm not saying this to paint some grim picture of doom, and I'm also not saying you should quit all social media in order to live a happy life. I still check Instagram and Facebook occasionally, but many people use these platforms every day and just see them as a way of staying in touch with friends. But these platforms are not neutral. They want you to use it in particular ways and for long periods of time. In his book Digital Minimalism, Cal Newport argues that we did not sign up for this digital world. We sort of stumbled backward into it, without ever asking what we wanted out of these rapid technological advances. He suggests doing a 30-day digital detox. This is a 1-month period where you don't use optional technologies and instead explore things you find meaningful. Then, at the end of the break, you can reintroduce these apps, but only after setting clear boundaries, by asking what value they serve in your life and how you will use them. I have yet to do this, although I have taken small steps in the right direction. I have removed Instagram and other social media apps from my phone. Facebook has lost all its appeal to me after I basically unfollowed everyone. I only use it for some groups I'm in and for Messenger. And what I found so far is that 1. I don't feel I'm missing much, and 2. My ability to concentrate has improved. I started reading again, books like 4,000 Weeks, which I feel is a way more valuable use of my time. So if you're paying for your life with attention, what you give attention to matters. Stay on the bus. So what have we got so far? We will never have enough time, we can't control time. By embracing our mortality, we can start living with intention, and life is what we give attention to. How can we use that attention to do something meaningful? By staying on the bus. In 2004, the photographer Arno Raphael Minkinen gave a commencement speech in which he used the Helsinki Central bus station as a metaphor for finding your own vision in photography. It's a story that really resonated with me when I read 4,000 Weeks, and it can be applied to anything in life. Helsinki is the capital of Finland. All buses that leave the central bus station stop at the same 3 stops, before diverging to their unique destinations. If you want to go to your destination out of town, you'll have to pass these 3 stations first. The lesson for the photography graduates Minkinen was speaking to was that they needed to have patience. For any project, you will first need to go through a trial and error phase of copying others, learning new skills, and that can be hard. Imagine being a young photographer. You're building your portfolio, you've got these beautiful photos of apartment buildings, take it to a gallery, only to be rejected because they look too much like Michael Wolff. So you decide, this is not it. You get off the bus, back to the central bus station. This time you decide to focus on black and white portrait photography. You do a couple of shoots, find a photography contest and submit your best photos. But the jury let you know they're not original enough. The style is too similar to Anton Cobain's work. What do? Stay on the bus. These first 3 bus stops are the stages everyone has to go through in order to create distinctive work, a unique style. And this goes beyond photography. A book that's popular with content creators is Austin Kleon's Steal Like an Artist. He doesn't literally mean stealing as in plagiarizing or ripping off. The point he makes is that nothing is completely original. We're all standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. To find your unique style, you need to study others, remix them, and create content that builds on what came before. The comedian Conan O'Brien came to this insight after his very public conflict with NBC. He had been waiting for many years to take over The Tonight Show from Jay Leno. However, when that moment arrived, Leno wasn't retiring and they were competing for ratings. Conan ended up leaving the network. In his Dartmouth commencement speech, which he delivered 1 year later, he said that in 1940, Jack Benny was a giant star, one of the greatest comedians of his generation. And Johnny Carson wanted to be Jack Benny. In some ways he was, but in many ways he wasn't. He emulated Jack Benny, but he had his own quirks and mannerisms that, along with TV gaining popularity, pulled him in a different direction. His failure to completely become his hero made him the funniest person of his generation. David Letterman then wanted to be Johnny Carson and was not. The comedians of Conan's generation wanted to be David Letterman, yet none of them are. Conan said, "My peers and I have all missed that mark in 1,000 different ways. But the point is that it is our failure to become our perceived ideal that ultimately defines us and makes us unique." The one thing these comedians did not do was get off the bus. And the same goes for me. I look at YouTubers like Mattia Vella, Ali Abdal, Nathaniel Drew, and I kind of want to be like them. I take inspiration from how they speak on camera, how they edit their videos, how they use B-roll, but I will never be them. And that's okay. I take consolation in knowing that my failure to become them will ultimately define me and make me unique. Oliver Burkeman writes that meaningful productivity comes from letting things take the time they take. Germans call this Eigenzeit. I just gotta stay on the bus. How to be more intentional with your time. 5 tips. So how can you be more intentional with your time? In the rest of this video, I'll go over 5 tips from 4,000 weeks that spoke the most to me and that might help you live a more meaningful life. Pick something to fail at. It's okay not to be a rock star at everything you do. Ricky Gervais said, if you try to please everyone, you'll please no one. And this type of humor is definitely not for everyone. I remember when the original version of The Office was on TV, the British one. My dad called me, Peter, I'm watching this show now. It's a documentary about people working in an office, but I'm not sure. Have you seen it? Is it real? It's so weird. If you're a perfectionist overachiever like me, we often tell ourselves we need to be an A player at work, be in good shape, be a loving partner and parent, have a thriving social life, and oh yeah, successful side hustle. But for most of us, it's impossible to excel in every aspect of our lives at the same time. So why not pick an area of your life intentionally to fail at? The great benefit of picking something to fail at is that you can focus your time and energy more effectively on the things you do want to excel at. Now, some things you can't completely bomb at, like diet and exercise, they matter if you want to stay healthy. Showing up for work matters if you want to keep your job. But you can choose to not give them your all, while you focus on another aspect of your life. Go for a run once a week instead of training for a marathon 5 times a week. Or don't chase that promotion at work while you focus on your children. Then you can reevaluate a few months later and perhaps give these areas of your life you are neglecting your full attention again. An area that I have picked to fail at is playing guitar. Now, I'm a half-decent guitarist, but I used to beat myself up about not practicing more, memorizing the pentatonic scales, jamming with others. But I've got a lot going on in my life and playing guitar is just not a priority. And having made the conscious decision that it's okay to fail at playing guitar has been liberating. It doesn't mean I will not pick it back up later in life, but right now I'm okay with letting it slide. A side effect of picking something to fail at is that you may start to enjoy it more. Often time is only considered well spent if it's something instrumental to a better future. You're not relaxing for its own sake, but for the sake of recuperation for work. Or I will be learning the major skill on the guitar so I could be a better guitar player in the future. However, if all your time is focused on creating something for a better, more fulfilling future, we're missing the point. There will never be enough time, and we can't control the time we do have. In fact, Oliver Burkeman argues that spending some leisure time wastefully is the only way not to waste it, because we're simply doing it for the pleasure of the experience without an ulterior motive. Hobbies are a great example. When I was young, I played a lot with Lego. I had this big box of Lego pieces and I would build entire villages for hours. My goal wasn't to become better at Lego, I just did it for the fun of it. Practice doing nothing. Author Jenny Odell wrote that nothing is harder to do than nothing. I know what you're thinking. Doing nothing is easy. My fill in the blank friend, coworker, partner does it all the time. I wish they did do something. But how often do you take a moment, sit down with a cup of tea or coffee, alone, and let things be? No phone, no laptop or TV, no conversation, not even reading or journaling. And just let things be as they are. Be with your feelings and emotions, the weather, any sounds you may hear. I don't know about you, but when I'm not doing something productive, I feel guilty, like I'm wasting my time. But where does that feeling of guilt come from? When did we decide that every second of the day needs to be accounted for and that every single one of our actions needs to yield some tangible result? That's exactly the type of thinking Oliver Burkeman is trying to address in his book. He writes that training yourself to do nothing really means training yourself to resist the urge to manipulate your experience or the people and things in the world around you, to let things be as they are. If you want to learn more about this, I did a video called The Art of Doing Nothing, which I will link to right here. Cosmic insignificance therapy. Another way we can live with more intention is cosmic insignificance therapy. Have you ever heard of the spotlight effect? It's this idea that we all tend to think we're the center of the universe, like there's a little spotlight on us. We tend to overestimate how much others notice our behavior. Cosmic insignificance therapy is basically the opposite of that. From the perspective of the universe, our existence is irrelevant. Most of what we know about history is from written sources, and the earliest form of writing appeared almost 5,500 years ago in Mesopotamia, in present-day Iraq. But life on our planet is much older. A while back, I saw the documentary series Cosmos: A Space-Time Odyssey. In the first episode, they showed Earth's cosmic address in the universe. They just kept zooming out, from Earth to our solar system, the Milky Way, galaxies, even to the point of the bubble theory, which is this theory that our universe might just be a bubble in a pool of other bubbles, all universes too. It's truly mind-blowing. And they showed this cosmic calendar which scaled the universe's age of 13.8 billion years to a single year. The universe, the creation of time and space, it begins on January 1st, and midnight on New Year's Eve is today, right now. And on that calendar, primitive humans only showed up on December 31st at 10:24 p.m. So at a cosmic level, we truly are insignificant. This may sound a bit depressing, but it's actually liberating. We've received the gift of living an average of 4,000 weeks in this universe. Oliver Burkeman says that holding it up to an over-demanding standard of remarkableness doesn't do that gift justice. It will only leave us wanting something that will never arrive. So how can we do justice to it? By accepting our time is finite, and there's only so much we can do with it. Philosopher Ido Landau was on point when he wrote, "We do not disapprove of a chair because it cannot be used to boil water for a nice cup of tea." Similarly, there have been very few Einsteins and Lionel Messis on this earth. We can't all be geniuses, and that's okay. Once we accept that, we can really start living. Seek out novelty in the mundane. In a way, we are what we give attention to. At the end of your life, your experience has been the combined moments of what you've given attention to. What do you want that experience to be like? The problem is that we have this built-in negativity bias. Rich Hansen, in his book Buddha's Brain, put it this way: your brain is like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. So that's helpful for survival, but it doesn't make for a very happy life, right? One way to tackle that and live with more intention is to adopt an attitude of curiosity. To pay more attention to every moment, however mundane. It can be anything. What I like to do is to sit on a bench in a park or city and just watch people pass by, without focusing on anything specific. Or you could closely examine a tree. The trunk, the branches, the color and structure of the leaves. Or when you're in a museum, you could pick one painting to really look at, instead of racing through the museum to see everything for 3 seconds. Treat each experience as if it's the last time you're doing it. Sam Harris, host of the Making Sense podcast, has made the powerful observation that our lives are full of activities we will never do or experience again. Having coffee in this cafe, exchanging the Big Lebowski quotes with a friend, I mean that rock really tied the room together, or seeing the sunset at the beach with your partner, you may never do these things again. Usually we have no way of knowing it in the moment. You would probably value these moments differently if you did know, like if you knew you were terminally ill. Sam Harris says that to live a more intentional life, you should try to treat every experience as if it's the final instance of it. And in a way, every moment is. Even if you were to go back to that sunset beach or have another coffee at that same cafe, that experience would not be identical to the last one. So in a sense, every moment of life is the last time. With each new experience, there's just one moment less left in your remaining supply of moments. When you think of it this way, it's crazy to treat most of our time as a mere stepping stone to building some safer future. Now, I don't think that Oliver Burkeman means to say there's no value in working toward a better future. There is, and even more so if you're intentional about it. Going to school, learning a new skill, hustling at a job to pay off debt. These are obviously all great and worthwhile things to do. But the point of 4,000 weeks is that we can get lost in our desire for a better future, under the illusion that we can control time and we'll have enough of it. If we can instead embrace our finitude, we can start living a more fulfilling life by being more intentional about what we give attention to and by staying on the bus. One way in which I'm more intentional with my time is by spending some of my evenings doing activities I enjoy for their own sake. Cooking, reading a book, listening to a storytelling podcast. And I made a video about it called Evening Routine of a Slow Living Minimalist, which you can watch right here. So thanks for watching this long video all the way to the end, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care, bye bye.